I called out into the darkness, "Jesus, please save me." And when I did that, a tiny light appeared in the darkness and got very, very bright, very intense, very quickly. Out of the light came hands and arms and reached down and touched me. And when he touched me, in this light, I could see that I was just gore. And when he touched me, all the gore just kind of began to disappear very rapidly, and I became whole. And the hands went behind me and picked me up to him, and he embraced me. When he touched me, in addition to the physical healing, instead of what I was feeling at that time, I was filled with his love, and it was a much more intense experience of being loved than anything I'd ever known in my entire life. And I don't think that there are any words in this world to begin to convey how powerful that love is. And it's love with acceptance too. I mean, I didn't feel love in a sentimental sense. I felt like, totally accepted by him. He had his arms around me, and I had my arms around him, and I wept for joy, holding on to him, and he started to carry me up out of that world of darkness and despair. And as we began to move, I knew that we were really moving. We were going very, very rapidly, like a rocket. So I'm hanging onto him real tight because I don't want to get dropped. I wanted to see where we were moving towards, and as I looked up in the direction that we're going to, I saw a world of light. And as I looked at the world of light, I all of a sudden was like, oh no, God lives there. That world of light is we're going to God's house. And I have spent all of my adult life saying, there is no God and there is no heaven, and now we're headed there. I am such a piece of filth. I'm such a piece of garbage. He's made a terrible mistake. Jesus spoke to me for the first time, and he said, "We don't make mistakes. You do belong here." And when he said that, we stopped moving. So there we are, me holding on to him holding on to me, and I suddenly realized he had heard what I had thought, because I hadn't said anything. And I had heard what I couldn't read his mind. He was putting his words into my head in his own voice. So I thought, "Do you know what I'm thinking?" He said, "I not only know what you're thinking, I know everything you've ever thought." And I thought, I'm really uncomfortable with you knowing everything I've ever thought. Because I was thinking of like all the times, like as a teenager, sneaking off to the bathroom to relieve myself. Things like that. Like all the times I'd thought about people I'd like to break their neck. All of a sudden had a very vivid image of a naked woman. And he started laughing. And because he could see what I was thinking, and he just thought that was so funny. And I said, "This is not good." I'm thinking, if you know everything I'm thinking, I can't hide anything from you. And he said, "Well, I know it all. I know everything." And so, if you know everything, I knew that he liked me. I knew that he really liked me a lot, and he really loved me, and I thought, well, if he knows it all and he's so fond of me, I guess it's okay. Sort of like, I guess he's my best friend, kind of thing. So we were conversing by me thinking and him speaking to me, and he said that he had people he wanted me to meet, and so he called out, and some other beings of light came and were hanging in space around us. And what he told me was that they had recorded my life, and they wanted to show me my life. And I thought, well, this sounds like a lot of fun. So we started to watch my life, and it was being displayed in chronological order, and it was very interesting what they chose to show and what they chose not to show. And as time went on, it wasn't so much fun, because as we went from my childhood into my more teenage years, I started to see a lot of problems develop, which I was participating in, like my relationship with my father was deteriorating from bad to worse, and I was becoming more and more alienated from everybody and everything, sort of withdrawing into my own little bubble as a form of self-defense from emotional harm, and becoming more and more manipulative in terms of wanting to get what I wanted. And I made Jesus and the angels very sad. And there's a common saying in Christianity, love the sinner but hate the sin. That's precisely what I was experiencing. I always felt that they loved me and cared a great deal about me, but they didn't like what I was doing in my life, because the bottom line was, it was harmful to me. Everything that I saw as me being the victim of, everything that I could rationalize and excuse myself for doing, was of my own doing and was basically self-destructive. Like one of the examples of how he wanted to show me how I should have lived or could have lived was, I was a teenager. My father went into I had an older sister, 2 years older than I am, and he went into a room and beat her very severely. And I lay in my bed, this was late at night, and listened to it and did nothing, which I was so ashamed of. I wanted to do something, but the problem was that I knew that if I went in there, I'd kill him. And then it stopped, and he laughed, and she was in there crying. I went into my sister's room, and I climbed into bed next to her, which I'd never done in my life. I mean, the thought of being in bed with your sister is like disgusting. I climbed in bed, I put my arm around her and held her. And her crying got less and less, and she fell asleep. And I was still awake, and I thought, I better hold on to her. So I just held on to her and fell asleep too. When I woke up in the morning, she was still sleeping. I scampered out of there because I didn't want her. I was kind of horrified by the fact that I'd spent the night holding my sister. But Jesus said, no, that was beautiful. He was very happy with that. So after we went through my life review, and he had completely ignored all the things that I had done that I thought were my achievements in life, and instead had shown me of all of my lack of response to other people. I was very unhappy with my life review, and he asked me if I had any questions, and I said, I've got a million questions, and he said, go ahead and ask. When I asked him why, he said, why are we here? And I asked him that very question, why did God make me? And he gave me an answer, and I couldn't understand it. And I said, I don't understand you. And he said, well, let me put it in a way that you can understand it. He said that the world is like God's garden, and God made you and everyone else to bloom in that garden and to be beautiful. And God made every one of you unique and special to be beautiful in your own way. Okay, I understand that. I mean, that's simple enough. When he told me that I had to come back to the world, and I was trying to convince him not to send me back to this world, I asked him, what would I do if I came back to this world? And before he had a chance to answer, I said, I'm an artist, and I would like to build you a shrine. If I were to come back to the world, I'd like to build a shrine. And I said, I'd make this shrine so big and beautiful and bizarre that people would come from all over the world out of curiosity to see what it was about. And what they would find was, it would be about you. And then that would make them think about you. And that's what I would like to do if he came back. And he said, I'd rather you didn't do that. And I said, what? I said, people have been building shrines to you, forever. There's lots of shrines. Why can't I build a shrine? I'd like to build a shrine. He said, you spent so much of your life hiding out in the studio, avoiding people. He said, I would prefer it if you didn't avoid people by building this big shrine. And he said, the other thing is, he said, I don't really care about shrines. He said, people like to build shrines. And he said, I understand that it makes them feel good. But he said, it does absolutely nothing for me or for God. We don't have any use for them whatsoever. He said, if that's what amuses you, I guess that's what you got to do. But he said, don't do it for me. Don't deceive yourself in thinking that it's something that I want or need, because I don't. I'm like, okay, well, you shot down my idea. What's your idea of what would I do? And he said, love the person that you're with. And I said, okay, great, I'll do that. No problem. What do you want me to do? And he said, that I just told you what I wanted you to do, love the person you're with. And I said, yeah, but after I do that, then what do you really want me to do? And he said, no, that is what I want you to do, is love the person you're with. And I said, well, that's simple enough. That's easy. I'll do that. And he said, oh, really? Well, that's what I want you to do. And he said, that's enough. And I said, how is it enough? And he said, if you do that, he said, you'll change the world. And I said, oh, you want me to change the world? And he said, exactly, that's what I put you in the world in the first place, to change the world. And I said, well, there's been a lot of people that have tried to change the world, and they usually turn out really badly. And I said, I can think of examples like Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong, all of them wanted to change the world, and, they made it worse. If I go back and try and change the world, why isn't it possible that I could make like a lot of terrible mistakes and make the world a worse place? And he said, the way that I want you to change the world is by love the person that you're with. And I said, wait a minute, that's a contradiction. You want me to change the world, but you want me to just love the person that I'm with? And he said, yeah, that's the plan. That's the big plan. And I said, I don't see how loving the person that I'm with is going to change the world. And he said, if you love the person that you're with, then they will go out and love the person that they're with, and they'll go out and love the person that they're with. And he said, it'll be like a chain reaction, and love will conquer the world, and everybody will love one another. He said, that's God's big plan. And I said, it's not going to work. And he said, why won't it work? And I said, because I love the person I'm with. They walk across the street and get run over by a truck. Everybody gets angry and upset. And he said, yeah, that happens, but it's really God's plan, and nothing's going to stop it. It's going to happen. And I said, well, even if you had like 1 million people, I don't think it's going to happen. And he said, there's more than 1 million people in the plan. He said, there's a lot of people in the plan. And I said, well, from what I know of the world, you don't have enough. And he said, well, actually, we have all the angels are in the plan. And he said, there's a lot of them. There's more angels than there are people in the world. And I said, so the angels are doing this? And he said, there's millions of people, there's all the angels, and there's God. He said, it's inevitable. The plan is going to happen. And I said, if that's your plan, I'll do it, but I just don't really see much hope for it. And he said, well, because you just don't really know enough to see how it's going to happen. Okay. So my solution to everything is to love one another. And when I read the Bible and found out that that was written in the Bible as Jesus' commandment, love one another. This is my commandment, that you love one another. And he said the same thing in other places, in other ways, but basically that's the program. I have tried to be part of that program. So I personally have no big plan other than to be loving. The only fly in the ointment is that I thought it was going to be easy, and it turns out to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. Because it sounds so simple, but it's really difficult. It's easy. It's like easy for me to love my mother because she was a really nice woman and she was a very loving woman. So not hard to love someone who's really good and really loving. But what do you do with someone who's difficult or actually really nasty? I mean, those are hard people to love. And what does it mean to love someone? I mean, sometimes to love someone means you need to incarcerate them. Yeah. And that's not like a lot of fun. Sometimes loving someone means you have to put as much distance between them and you as possible and tell them to never call you. That's not a lot of fun. I mean, it's loving people sounds so simple, but it's very difficult. I don't believe in reincarnation. I believe that God will give us lots of life and experiences beyond this world, but the idea of coming back to this world is absolutely not, according to what Jesus told me, it's just not an option at all, because this world is one of the lowest grades of spiritual development in the universe. And, would you send someone back to daycare over and over and over again? I mean, this is, there's a universe full of life, heaven's full of learning, and as we progress in our spiritual growth, there's lots of things to do, lots of places to go, lots of things to learn. And the whole idea of people coming back as beetles and cows and dogs and cats, and it's all silly. It's just absolute nonsense. It's not happening. Interestingly, I just want to say that in some ways I regret speaking about that or talking about it, because I found it bizarre and disturbing how many people want to argue with me or denounce me about the things that Jesus said to me. Because it's like, man, take it up with him. It's not, I don't really feel like a need to defend him. He's perfectly capable of being who he is.